at the park. They couldn't find anyone to say they had a problem with the homeless at all. As a matter of fact, they all said that they didn't have any problem with the homeless people in
Well,
the park.
this is an example of the News Journal and some of the downtown merchants and some of the people that that don't like they just don't like the homeless. Okay, they're unsightly, and they're just messing everything up, and and so on. So they want to, these kind of stories just feed into that narrative. Okay, that, oh my God, we got to do something about the homeless, and it's just irrational. And these people need to be helped, and they need to be helped up, a hand up, not hunted down like criminals. We have a policy that, as the habitat for the homeless shrinks in the city of Daytona Beach by them on this relentless campaign to install no trespassing signs around, so there's literally no place that they can legally sit down or be or sleep and so on. It's just, it's not a good thing.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
well,
you agree, Brad?
people experiencing homelessness have just as much right to enjoy the park as anyone else, as long as they're not, breaking the law or, causing a disturbance.
For those history buffs out there, I did some research about the way it was in the 40s and 50s, and they specifically used a town in Osceola. They had what's called sundown towns and ugly laws. Okay, a sundown town was directed at African Americans, and they said you can't be here after sundown, and that law was actually not repealed until the 70s. All right, so my position, a lot of people say I'm sensationalizing and all, but really the the homeless are the last group that can be discriminated against without consequence. And don't you agree about that, Brad?
Well, I think they do discriminate against the homeless. I mean, they take away their constitutional rights that are, guaranteed to all American citizens, and they basically just throw them out the window and abuse them.
Yeah, and back then, during that period, they had in San Francisco, I read that they had the ugly laws, which means that if you were disabled or disfigured or you couldn't be on the street because you were scaring people. so that's interesting, an interesting parallel to what's going on today, this irrational fear of people that are different and so on. So Brad and I are tireless advocates for this group of people. We welcome the listeners that that care about the issue and would like to maybe
the thing
help.
The thing that irritates me about what's going on in the park is that they have these ordinances like no sleeping in the park or no loitering in the park that they only enforce on homeless people. It's not like they enforce them on anyone else.
Oh, how about open container?
Well, no one can drink in the park, and no one should be allowed to drink in the park.
Okay,
we disagree on that.
Okay, granted, it's against the law, but
right.
Where is this? I think it's selective enforcement. I've never seen it. We haven't done our analysis of open container citations, but I'd be willing to bet.
But the first thing an officer will do when he walks up to someone who might be sleeping or loitering in the park, which is ridiculous, is he'll ask them, are you homeless? And if that person says they're homeless, his whole demeanor would turn, and he'll, treat them totally different than he would someone else, say, that's out there.
But Brad, it comes down to this article, and I don't want to lend it any more credence than it already has, because I really don't understand the point of this article, where it says homeless flock to city parks. That's the headline. All right, on top of the fold Sunday.
There is no point to it, except
there is no point to it. Okay,
except to hopefully, maybe the News Journal is trying to encourage people to support Volusia Safe Harbor.
Well,
homeless people need a place to go during the day.
I didn't see anything in there.
There was no reference to Volusia Safe Harbor at all.
No reference to solutions, only the perceived problem. All right, so we're talking about we're talking about the problem too much now.
Well, no, I mean we can't talk about the problem too much because I'm wondering how, because when they arrest people, like in the article, Captain Newcomb said we don't arrest people for sleeping.
No. He says we're not getting them
For sleeping, well, same
for
thing.
sleeping. We're
Right.
getting them
For trespassing.
For trespassing.
But-
Okay,
but he doesn't-
I take issue with anybody. That there's a mindset that we need to get these people.
But what he's saying though is true. But when they arrest somebody for sleeping, they give them a trespassing ticket. They don't give them a sleeping ticket.
Well, that's my
They give them a trespassing
that's my
ticket
point.
for misuse of park property.
The habitat is shrinking now.
I'm just well, my point is, I'm just wondering how can you give someone a trespassing ticket in the middle of the day when the park is open?
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
It does. I think Judge Schumann addressed that. I would, gather that, maybe she would be less than enthused to find out that her ruling has been circumvented.
And what is misuse of park property?
It comes down to like loitering in the park. Now, isn't that what parks are for?
That's what parks are for.
To loiter. So anyway.
But these are ordinances that are only enforced on homeless individuals, and that's what irritates me.
Well-
I'm not one of these people that think that just because someone's homeless, that they have a right to do whatever they want to do. But I do think that homeless people have the right to do what everyone else is entitled to do. You can't take their constitutional rights away from them just because they're homeless.
Well, let's
with these stupid ordinances.
And on the other side, it quotes Tammy who owns Sweet Marley's, is upset about a person sitting on a bench in front of her business. And, I can appreciate that when you invest your life savings and you work really hard as a small business owner. Mm-hmm. Okay, you don't want to be challenged by, people panhandling your customers.
If Sweet Marley's isn't doing any good business, you know why they're not doing good business?
Why is that?
Because their prices are so outrageous, it's ridiculous. That's why they're not doing good business. It has nothing to do with homeless people sitting on Beach Street.
Okay, well, the thing about prices is that a price is an agreement between the seller and the buyer. Okay, if the buyer agrees that the price is reasonable, then a business will do well.
I mean, Jacob's Well right down the street, run by homeless individuals, and has
a great coffee shop.
Has a great coffee shop, and the prices are very fair.
Yeah, that's right, and they got great Wi-Fi.
And they seem to be doing pretty well.
Great Wi-Fi, and
regardless of what's going on outside their
they got a nice
establishment.
place, and we love Jacob's Well, and we love Ray and Sue Kelly who run the place, and they're very proactive in the homeless advocacy with us, and we would like to invite all of our listeners to go down and bring your laptop or your tablet, hook up to their Wi-Fi, and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, Doug, are you busy over there?
Yeah.
Is he busy, Doug?
Okay.
I was going to ask you, are you scared of homeless people, Doug?
Not generally, no.
Not generally.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's get back to what may be the solution. And before we do that, let's invite our listeners to call in, with their questions and comments. Okay, we're here on 1380 AM WELE, the Cat, and you can reach us in the studio and be on the air and ask with a sincere question or a comment. And our number here is 523-1380, 523-1380. So we welcome you to call in and with a question or a comment.
I go on Beach Street a lot too. I actually, go there and I walk down Beach Street, and I don't see a huge homeless problem during the day anyway, as far as a lot of homeless people hanging out and panhandling. I just don't see it, and I don't see how that can be affecting the businesses at all whatsoever. And especially what goes on at City Island Park. I don't know how that could affect the businesses over on Beach Street.
Well, I was there today giving out cold water bottles because it's like 100, or this morning it was like 100 heat index, and we have there was like 12 people in the park, and there was a mother, swinging her child in the swing, and it was very nice, and It's just that this idea, this concept that the homeless are ruining things for
Well, that
for
was the point.
families.
That was the point I took away from the article. When they asked the people who actually were at the park, they said we don't have a problem with the homeless in the park. They didn't find anyone who was actually there at the park saying we have a problem with the homeless.
Well, there's a number of people. Just today, before we got on the air, Big John had a caller come in. I think his name was Frank or something like that, and he just went on and on and on about the homeless on Beach Street, the homeless on Manatee Island, just the homeless that it was a big problem. What do we do about it? So anyway, the solution is two things. Number one is that we have our flagship initiative called Volusia Safe Harbor. It's moving forward. Just today, Brad, you want to tell them your good news?
I don't really want to. I don't want to speak about.
Okay, all right.
Stuff
Well,
like that.
maybe that's speaking out of school.
Right.
All right. So I won't do it either. But the Safe Harbor Working Committee meets at 9:00 on Friday at City Hall in room 149B. So if you're interested in this issue, there's no public participation, but you can sit in the room, and observe how Father Phil and Dr. Robert Marbut and Troy Ray from Hum, that they're talking about it, and you can just absorb the progress that's going on. And there is progress being made. Dr. Marbut is in phase 1 of the contract, where they're coming up with a governance structure and a capital budget. And I believe we're going to have numbers. We're going to have numbers at that meeting.
Thursday.
Thursday. Well,
The numbers are coming out Thursday.
the
so
numbers are coming
will
out
be there.
Thursday, but they'll be able to maybe talk about those numbers on Friday. So for those of you not familiar with the initiative, Dr. Marbut was hired back in March, I believe, of 2014, and to do a homelessness gaps analysis for Volusia County. And he went to different parts in the county, in Daytona and out in West Volusia and down in southeast Volusia, New Smyrna and whatnot. And he came up with that the homeless population was evenly divided between the east and the west sides of the county. So what he came up as a recommendation that the shelter should be co-located with Stuart Marchman on Red John Road, about 8 to 10 miles outside of the city limits. All right, that would be quote unquote centrally located. To perhaps solve what he perceived to be a county-wide problem. All right, so we're in that first phase, and the next phase is going to be soliciting the 16 surrounding cities for their financial contributions and commitments for a 5-year period to contribute to the operating expense of the shelter, which right now is pegged at $1.6 million a year. So, my calculator says that's $8 million.
And not all the cities have to buy in, just enough to cover the annual operating cost.
Right. Okay. That's accurate. So what we in the previous Sunday's article, Eileen Zafiro did kind of like a straw poll of the different cities, and some are absolutely behind it, and some want more information, and that's what we're attempting to do, is provide information. We have a heavy lift. Let me just be frank about it. The mayor's come out and said it's a 50-50 proposition. Big John has come out and say it's a 50-50 proposition, because there doesn't seem to be a sentiment for helping the most maligned segment of the homeless population. That's single chronic homeless men.
Can I give my percentage?
I'm out of breath. So
I would say I would say it's about 70-30.
All right.
I think there's a 70% chance
You're
that this
entitled
is
to handicap this.
is going to happen.
Any way you want.
I think it's going to happen. I mean, I heard some news today, and it's exciting, and I think that those who oppose Volusia Safe Harbor, for whatever the reason, maybe because they don't think that the money should be spent, on single homeless men, and let's cut right to the chase. That's why people who oppose an emergency shelter oppose emergency shelter. Not because they're looking for some better plan to help single homeless men. It's because they don't want to spend the money to help single homeless men. Because they're the most unsympathetic group of people probably on the planet. And that's the fact. But those who oppose this, I think better get used to the idea because it's going to happen.
Well, wishful thinking won't make it happen.
No, I think it's not wishful thinking. I think it's going to happen.
Okay, and I don't want to rain on your parade. We just have an uphill, we have an uphill task with getting the financial contributions from the surrounding cities for an initiative that can be perceived in some quarters as solving Daytona Beach's problem.
It's in the medical clinic alone. A lot of what really irritated me, since we're on the subject now and we're off in the park, is that a member of the COC board, the Continuum of Care board, people who supposedly care about the homeless and want to look after the homeless, they called the Volusia Safe Harbor a box. They said maybe it's not a great idea to put homeless people in a box. And I thought to myself, that's a very narrow-minded view of Volusia Safe Harbor. This is a shelter that will provide, number one, a medical clinic, job training, intensive case management, alcohol and substance abuse treatment.
Through the cooperation with Stuart Marchman.
This is not a box. And that's what people have to really, if you really care about homeless individuals, no one wants to put them in a box and leave them out in the middle of nowhere. This is
some people do.
Well, this is a shelter. This is a shelter that's going to help a lot of people and has a lot of good, good components to it. And I really got irritated that the COC with board member would say something like that. It's ridiculous.
Okay, Brad, you've weighed in with your opinion. Okay, now can I tell you what's going on? And I'm not anti-safe harbor at all.
All right.
I think it's a wonderful thing. All right. I want it yesterday.
Well, yeah, I know you want it now.
I want it now. Okay, I've got a short attention span, and I'm always had an instant gratification.
I want it now.
When I see the suffering that goes on the streets of Daytona Beach, and I challenge these so-called homeless advocates to come out on the street with me and hand out water bottles and talk to people. There's a lot of executivitis going on. There's people, are just sitting in their air-conditioned offices and saying and getting a salary and saying that they're giving back, to this population. When if you're getting a salary and sitting in an air-conditioned office, I'm sorry, I agree with Big John. You're not giving back.
I don't understand how people who say they care about people experiencing homelessness can be against an emergency shelter. I don't get it.
Okay, which brings me to the Pastor Mike initiative. Okay, you may have heard something about it. I was at City Hall with about 20 supporters who were holding up signs that say "Shelter can't wait." Now, the Shelter Can't Wait campaign is saying that, okay, we have an initiative. It's moving forward. Good people with good intentions are working on it. But because we're talking about new construction and we're talking about obtaining funding commitments, it's going to have a timeline. All right, the timeline, now, Brad might disagree with me.
I do.
Okay, but my timeline is 24 months. All right, from now. All right, so if we can accept that it's going to take 18 to 24 months. All right, but we're talking about new construction. We're talking about a land grant. Okay, we're talking about interlocal agreements. We're talking about funding commitments that have to be put in each city that wants to participate. That's going to have to be put into their 2017, 2018, because 2016 is gone. They're doing their budget meetings right now, and they don't have numbers to even consider it. So you're not going to get any numbers to put into their 2016, 2017 budget. And Brad, I'm sorry, it's just not.
Well, I'll agree with you on this. I talked to someone today who's involved in the project.
Okay.
And their time frame wasn't 2 years, but their time frame was, I think they said, 18 months.
Okay, now we got something. Let's meet in the middle, Brad. Okay, 18 months. All right, now we've got all of this, all of this public outcry against the homeless. That they're soiling, sullying the reputation of Daytona Beach, and I don't know if that's even possible. Daytona Beach. Jeff Foxworthy, said at one time, if you're a redneck, you probably would think of heaven as something looking a lot like Daytona Beach, Florida. All right, so Daytona Beach is a party town. Okay, it's a special event town. We have Bike Week, we have Biketoberfest, we have the Daytona 500, we have Spring Break. And this somewhat attracts. We're going to have to use that word. That a transient population. Now we have. The slogan. Come down to Daytona Beach on vacation and leave on probation. Okay, there's just this this mindset, and notwithstanding anything that the mayor and city commission are trying to do to improve the image, they have all these neat things. Minto communities out by LPGA. They have the Tanger Outlet Mall. They have JetBlue coming in with a daily flight direct from New York. We got all of these neat things that are going on. But you know what? It's all going to be. If they don't put this initiative, Lucia Safe Harbor, on the front burner, okay, and solve the homeless problem, then all of that's going to be, it's going to be a problem. And it is a problem.
Well, I think there are transient people that come through Daytona, and I don't think they stay. And I think that's what bloats the numbers.
Yeah.
Like the Salvation Army had like 1,000 visitors last year. But are there 1,000 homeless people living in Daytona Beach? I don't think so. But I think you have people moving through, and they bloat the numbers.
Right.
I mean, I really think there's probably only about
300
to 400 actual people who are homeless living on the streets of Daytona Beach.
Okay, you know where I take these numbers from?
The Cold Night Shelter.
Cold night shelters, that's over like had a high of like 125 or 140 or something like that. All right, then the people that showed up when the Little Caesars corporate pizza semi trailer came up, there were 300 people in line to get pizza. All you can eat. It was great.
Yeah, and we see the same people everywhere. So I mean, you can pretty much say that we have maybe a 300, 400 people living on the streets.
All right, so that's where I took my numbers from them, and in Shelter Can't Wait, when I spoke before the mayor and city commission, I asked them, to take responsibility for the special needs population, people in wheelchairs, people are vulnerable, people that are risk, and I'm advocating for 100-bed temporary shelter by Christmas. And I have a plan called the Shelter Can't Wait plan that has 3 elements. Okay, the first element is, a temporary a special use permit, a temporary engineered building that is erected in 30 days and has bunk beds and big fans, big fans at either end. Okay, where we can at least give the homeless a safe and legal place to sleep. Now, in the article, it mentions that that Captain Newcomb is saying, well, they're sleeping behind buildings and all that. Well, why are they sleeping behind buildings? You know why? Because this city will not allow a safe zone for sleeping. They just won't do it.
That's correct.
Well, so I seek to change that. Okay, well, if
when we met with the mayor, and the mayor was adamant that they weren't going to allow.
No, they weren't going to allow any kind of shelter close into the city limits. So the Shelter Can't Wait initiative is a public information campaign. We've got a change.org petition on my website, DaytonaHomeless.com, and also on Brad's website, homeofdaytonabeach.org. You can go to either one of our websites, click the button on the change.org petition, and sign the petition urging the elected leaders faster action on shelter.
We disagree on this. Although I'm all for Shelter Can't Wait, I want shelter now. But I really think that the fastest way to a shelter is going to be Volusia Safe Harbor. And people who want to shelter the homeless need to start speaking out in support of Volusia Safe Harbor.
All right. Well, now 18 months. Okay.
I know. It's a long time, and I get what you're saying.
All right.
But I just think that that's going to ultimately be the fastest way we have to a shelter.
Agreed. All right. In the meantime, there are real suffering on the street. This initiative could possibly give the the merchants on Beach Street and the people that want to get the homeless out of the park, if we can provide an alternate area somewhere close in. When I say close in, I mean we could go out to Tomoka Farms Road, on property that's owned by a church out there, or we could go to, as long as it's on a bus route, and they can get back and forth, and maybe we can convince the county to provide us some bus passes. Then it's problem solved. Our biggest problem with something like that is that I think a lot of people would like to provide the homeless with a safe place to sleep, but there's just a sentiment. Well, yeah, we'd want to do that, but we can't put it here. Okay. Well, Pastor Mike, we really like what you're saying and all that, but over there, it's just not going to work. and stuff like that. So in my shelter can't wait plan, I actually punted the football. I said, okay, here's my plan. It's a 100-bed temporary structure, and you can put it up and take it down. When Volusia Safe Harbor's ready to open, when we have a clear date for occupancy, a real timeline says, okay, we're going to open it on such and such a date. Then I'll just fold my tent and I'll shuttle people to the shelter. I mean, that's what I will do. But in the meantime,
I really think the county needs to donate the land now. I mean, if they're going to donate the land, I think they need to donate the land now. And there goes your shelter can't wait. We could start putting tents and stuff out there, almost immediately.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to pop your balloon. Okay. But let me tell you, what
I
that
know,
involves.
Mike, but I'm just saying the county, that's a good way to go. The county needs to donate.
Well,
the
who are
land
they going to
now.
give it to?
Well, they need to get, hurry up and either form the nonprofit organization that's going to ultimately take, control of Volusia Safe Harbor, or, if they're going to give it to Halifax River Ministries, they need to go ahead and give it to
the
Halifax.
land grant, and it's a grant, all right, just like the king used to grant property to the serfs. Okay, the land grant, is specifically conditioned upon the funding commitments being in place.
I understand.
Before.
I understand that, Mike. But this county just needs to get off that. They need to donate the land.
To whom?
To either the nonprofit that's going to be formed to run Volusia Safe Harbor, or if it's going to be Halifax River Ministries, then Halifax River Ministries. Okay.
Well, then I guess we need to show up Thursday and speak for 3 minutes to an empty room, because the county council members are not required to sit in on public participation at 8:30 a.m. When we do public participation, we talk to Jason Davis, who's the chair, who's required to be there, and then usually one or two council members. All right, so my position is that when you have people talking about issues, in public participation before the council should really be there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I know, I mean, it's a, no-brainer, but they seem to be so contemptuous of public participation. They don't feel like they need to be there. All right. And we saw that in all of its glory when the beach driving vote came down. It was unreal, the number of people in that chamber.
Well, to a council, person, they all say we don't have a problem donating the land. Every single one of them. So we don't have a problem donating the land. And if that's the case, then let's move forward at least at that piece of the puzzle and get the land donated.
Okay, well, I guess we agree to disagree.
Well, that's a fast track to your shelter can't wait.
Uh-huh.
That's a
Okay. Okay. Well, all right. We still have new construction, Bradley. Okay. New construction takes time. There's permit. We have engineering drawings. We have permitting. We have to select a contractor. The contractor.
Right, Mike. But in the meantime, before all that even starts, you said we need something now
All right,
before all
well,
that even starts.
Okay.
So in the meantime, before all that even starts, why don't we, the county give the land, and then we can start putting people out there in tents or, whatever
All right.
you
Well,
want to do.
we don't have any infrastructure, but anyway.
Well, we don't have any infrastructure anywhere. Mike?
Yeah, we do. We have Halifax Urban Ministries. We have the Bridge of Hope. We have the Star Center, Hum Center with direct services. We have the Salvation Army. We have the Justice Center.
Well, then,
we have the Votran
then
bus station.
then go to Troy Ray and ask him if he can house people at Halifax Urban Ministries. He
Well-
says he has a special use
Oh,
permit.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. We haven't verified that with Troy.
then
All
do
right.
that.
All right. Well, now I'm told that the building at 340 North Street, the upstairs is unfinished and has as much as square footage as the first floor. So there's a full second floor to the building that you formerly known as the Star Center, which is now the Hum Center Direct Services. They have a full second floor. I don't know how many square.
But you know
footage-
why that wouldn't work?
Why?
Because they would never put single homeless men near families.
No.
With
This
children.
is across the street.
Across the street.
Right. This is above the Star Center.
Right.
Center, not
Well,
the
where-
Star Shelter.
Okay, well, it's in the same building.
No.
I'm assuming.
No. Guess you haven't been there in a while.
I guess I haven't because they must have changed the whole.
All right, come out and give some water bottles out with
They
me.
they must have changed the whole building then.
No, that's where the showers are. That's where John volunteers. That's where Nurse Jenny is.
Yeah, but it's all connected, Mike.
Uh,
It's all connected. They're not going to put single homeless men near families.
there's a clear line of demarcation because we would have to have the Coalition for the Homeless, Jeff White, and Ann Evans. You said, I believe was her name.
Ann Evans is the
Ann
president.
Evans. Okay, to agree to allow for an outside staircase to go up to that level. It would have to be finished out and put heating and air conditioning there and so on. So yeah, that's a uphill climb. We'd probably
That's
have
a huge uphill climb.
Okay, we would have an easier time of pressing the Salvation Army in the city to have them open up the gymnasium, and put more beds in there.
Much easier fix.
Okay, well, the thing about it is when I went and spoke in front of the mayor and city commission, and I conceived the Shelter Can't Wait campaign. You know what I'm saying? We need to get people in a room and say, all right, Pastor Mike, you want 100 beds by Christmas. Okay, how are we going to do that? All right.
Well, that's what you need to ask yourself, Mike. How are you going to do that?
Huh? Well, I'm proposing an engineered structure be put up on a site and taken down in 12 months. All right, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, whenever the Volusia Safe Harbor emergency shelter, 250 beds, is ready to open.
You need to find like a church that has land that'd be willing to let you come out there or anybody come out there and put up tents, and that's more likely than saying we're going to put it here in the city and here or there.
I'm not saying any of those things.
No, but I'm just saying that's probably the best approach. If I was running the Shelter Can't Wait program, and I'm not, obviously, I would try to find a church that had land, or at least a private owner that had land, and would let me just come out there and do it, and then challenge the city to say you can't do it.
Well, that's where it is, okay? Because I'll tell you, this pipe dream that some of the commissioners have, okay, that are being continually complaining about the homeless, to the commissioners. This is how this all started. We have to do something. We have to do something. So, so when they did the field trip out to Pinellas County, and they saw Pinellas Safe Harbor, they said, "Oh, that's it."
Well, we're not doing Pinellas Safe Harbor.
No, I'm talking about the physical plant.
I get it, but we're not,
No, I'm talking about the physical plant.
right. But our shelter, that's
I'm
really.
talking about the
I
physical
get it,
plant.
Mike. I understand. All right, but our shelter, I really get upset because we're not doing another Pinellas Safe Harbor.
Okay,
we're learning from the
why-
mistakes of Pinellas Safe
I
Harbor.
really don't want to debate this.
No,
okay,
but I'm just saying we're not doing a Pinellas Safe Harbor because a lot of people say, well, Pinellas Safe Harbor is a failure, so Volusia Safe Harbor is going to be a failure. But we're not doing a Pinellas
all right, we're
Safe
gonna
Harbor.
we're gonna have a large open building constructed. Now it's going to be block and maybe a metal roof and so on. Okay, and then we're going to have a large concrete floor, and then we're going to have lines drawn on the concrete floor
Right,
where the mats are.
It doesn't have to be that way, Mike. That's what you're saying. But we're also going to have,
What?
despite of how you say the living conditions are going to
Yeah.
be, we're going to have a medical clinic that's fully functional. We're going to have job training that's going to teach people trades. We're going to have substance abuse, and we're going to have mental health treatment. We're going to have intensive case management.
Brad, I'm not against,
No, but I'm just saying. I mean,
I'm not against that.
people. It's going to be more than a box, COC members, and it's going to be something that's going to help a lot of people.
All right. Well, when we'll be talking about this next week on our program, because I've got about 12 to 15 pages written. It's going to be about 35 pages. It has a lot of information that I've researched about other areas that are doing certain things that.
I can't wait till Friday to finally get involved in the process.
Well, we're going to be there. Okay, we're not really crashing the party. We made a formal request of the Safe Harbor Working Committee for Brad and I to be included at the table as stakeholders, because in the contract it clearly says that and other organizations who provide assistance and other activities. So I guess we fall under the other activities, and we're just as much a stakeholder as anybody else at the table, because we have the unique perspective of having Brad 7 years and me over a year of experiencing homelessness. That's important.
It's very important.
And no homeless person was invited to. I kind of stayed away for like 4 or 5 months, and I said, well, let me see what's going on. And my perception was that it was just taking too long. Okay, and I want to challenge the Safe Harbor Working Committee that if it's going to happen, let's make it happen.
Sooner than later.
Sooner rather than later. That's right. Because, with these articles coming out, and Mark Bernier said on his program yesterday that maybe this is the fulcrum that's going to move the city to really do something.
I think that was the intention of the article. I really do. I mean, it didn't come out and say that, but I really think that was the intention of the article.
Okay. Well, let's go back to let's talk about homelessness. Okay, we got about 15 minutes. We also like to invite you to call in if you got a question or comment at 523-1380, 523-1380. Our show is a forum, program, whatever you want to call it. It's Voices from Home, a voice for the voiceless. And we focus on, sometimes we talk about other topics like affordable housing, like the minimum wage. Okay, about how it's so hard for the people on the edge of society to make it. Okay, that you're literally caught between a rock and a hard place, and that's our intro music by the Rolling Stones,
So,
"A Rock and a Hard Place."
Yeah, Doug, do you see any downside to an emergency shelter?
I don't know. I mean, what? I don't see how it could hurt.
Yeah, it can't hurt, can it?
No,
I mean, it can only help.
I agree.
So I don't understand how people who want to help the homeless can be against, sheltering them in any form. Like what really irritated me too is the COC came out. Like you, Mike, the COC is coming up with a strategic plan to end homelessness, which is going to be interesting.
Okay. Let me.
And also,
I never finished my.
let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay, it's going to be back to Volusia Safe Harbor.
No, it's not going to go back to Volusia Safe Harbor. It might.
I get it.
It might get back there, but it's not. But once again, their plan to end homelessness is not including any way addressing single homeless men without a diagnosed disability.
Okay.
Now, how can you end homelessness without addressing this large, huge population? I mean, are you just hoping they all die? And then if you do a good job with homeless prevention, there won't be any more homeless people?
Well, you could decrease the surplus population like Ebenezer Scrooge said.
Is that a good idea, Doug? To just wait for homeless people to die and then maybe that will end homelessness?
Part of the population is always going to be homeless. It doesn't matter how small you make the population. You're always going to have people who.
That's right. You're not going to end homelessness.
Right.
In the Bible, it says the poor will always be with us.
You have to address single homeless men's needs.
Okay, all right. Let me tell you how I'm addressing single homeless men's needs.
We know, like shelter can't wait.
Well, no, I haven't done done the last part of it is graduating from an emergency shelter.
Oh, you could have case management there at shelter?
Absolutely. Well, no, the
intensive case management.
The center, Brad. The centerpiece, the center part, the beginning. There's a prequel to it, which is a 100-bed emergency shelter, okay, temporary in duration, up to 18 months, okay, for the most vulnerable. It's a triage shelter. We're not going to just let people, happy people come in and, want to milk the system. We're going to talk, we know all these people. We know who's vulnerable. We know who's at risk, okay? And it's not going to be hard to fill 100 beds, believe me. All right,
it won't be hard at all.
Then the centerpiece is leaving the Volusia Safe Harbor initiative to run its course with all the wonderful things that are proposed, okay? That's great. It's going to take, my estimation is 24 or more. Yours is 18 months. Okay,
18
we
months.
will see what it ends up being. And the third part of it is means-tested affordable housing. All right, so,
what is the definition of means-tested affordable
means-tested is getting people into their own efficiency apartments on a sliding scale.
Yeah, and if they don't have an income?
If they don't have an income, they will be they will be put into the SOAR program. So, if there's a diagnosed disability, there's a lot of people on the street that are just so apprehensive about the process of applying for disability benefits, okay, that are and for Ray, if you're listening, I'm talking about people that truly that qualify for disability benefits, because I know he's his smoke is coming out of his ears as a taxpayer.
I got a kick out of what's going on in Salt Lake City. I mean, I read an article in Salt Lake City where they said we've got it beat. Homelessness is beat. I mean, we have a means-tested housing first program, and we know every single homeless person that's left on the street by name. We have so few homeless people on the streets of Salt Lake City that we know everyone by name. And then I just read an article recently where who are they calling in to talk to about homelessness? Dr. Robert Marbut, because the homeless problem is so crazy.
All right, let me talk to you about what Dr. Marbut experienced in St. Petersburg.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, there was Pinellas Safe Harbor was built, and then St. Petersburg called him and said, "Hey, there's street people downtown. What's going on? I thought we were supposed to, I thought we were supposed to solve this problem." Well, Dr. Marbut came back and said, building a shelter, okay, is not enough. You have to have outreach workers.
Well, that's true.
Okay, and there's no, that's why I challenge the homeless advocates to provide outreach workers.
And if you were going into Volusia Safe Harbor, expecting that you're going to get for the sole reason of getting homeless people off the streets, then I'm not interested in talking to you, because Volusia Safe Harbor is supposed to help homeless people, It's not supposed to take all the homeless people off the streets. You know, if you were homeless, no one's going to be forced to go there, and you shouldn't be forced to go there. But Blue Safe Harbor is going to help the homeless people who want to get help. But it doesn't mean, you know, if you want Blue Safe Harbor just because you want homeless people to disappear, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And that's not the reason.
Okay, the
that's being
city of
built.
Daytona Beach is doing it for the wrong
Well,
reason.
there might be some city members that aren't doing it that way, but there are some for sure that are doing it that way.
Okay, well, here's my view. My view is that the pipe dream that that building a shelter and that we're going to sweep all of the homeless people off of Beach Street.
Yeah, that's the wrong reason to build a shelter.
All right, well, let me finish. We're going to sweep everybody off of Beach Street, City Island, Manatee Island, and they're all going to go to the shelter and stay there.
Yeah.
All right, and stay there and not come back. Well, I'll be happy to send any the mayor, city commissioners. They tried that. They tried that in Columbia, South Carolina. They built a shelter and said, once you go to the shelter, you can't come back to downtown.
Yeah, but
and there was such a public outcry, that they had to change the policy.
yeah, you can't do that. It's not gonna work. You can't do that.
Well, this Marbut recommendation about standardizing ordinances between all of the cities in the county.
You can't criminalize homelessness. You can't do it. It won't work.
Well, it's being done every day.
No, you have to learn from the mistakes of
All right, so
other
how are we
shelters.
going to change the mindset of our wonderful police chief? How are we going to change the mindset?
We get
of-
involved with Blue Safe Harbor like we are on Friday. I mean, Blue Safe Harbor will fail. Will fail if you try to criminalize homelessness and you don't have adequate transportation to and from.
Well, that's what
It will
we're
fail.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. Chief, if you're listening, or you have somebody that's taping this and you're listening to it offline, I just want to tell you that you're a fine police chief, and that I feel that I live in a safe city, and that you're doing your level best to fight crime. Having said that, though, okay, there is, educational mission that I have. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. All right, so, I know you've made comments about that, the criminal element is persuasive in the population. You were asked that, is there a place? I think it was Greg Gimbert asked you at the Bel Air Community Group meeting. He asked you, is there a place where the non-criminal element of the homeless population can legally be at night? And I don't believe that you gave a satisfactory answer, because your answer by the actions of the people that are enforcing the ordinances belie that, okay? Because you round them up and say, we're not getting them. Your own captain says, we're not getting them for sleeping. We're getting them for trespassing. So this...
Yeah, but they trespass them for sleeping.
Well, that's how they
That's how they get around it.
Okay, so anyway, my my battle is not with the police chief. It's it's educating people on the.
Well, are you
reason-
up for a good seafood dinner at Red Lobster in about 2 weeks?
Why?
Because that's where the ACLU meets. And
Oh yeah, well
I'm inviting you to be my guest, and we're gonna address this issue about what goes on in the park, and how can
what goes on the park.
how can you trespass people during the middle of the day for being in the park just because?
Well,
for everything.
yeah. Chief, and I love you to death. We're both Philly boys, and we love, and we love where we come from. And
They don't even give out tickets for anything else. They only give out trespassing tickets. No matter what you do in the park, you get a trespassing ticket. That's all. That's the only ticket they give out.
Hello, you're on the air.
No.
No, we just read what's available, on the internet.
Yeah. Well, they don't. They don't. Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Well, they don't, because Well, Salt Lake City, excuse me, sir,
Stop.
but
Stop. I'm talking.
yeah, but Salt Lake City doesn't know all the homeless by name. Matter of fact, they are consulting with the same consultant that we're consulting with about their homeless problem.
But I'll agree.
Yeah, they said that. I read an article where they said they had it cured, and then I read another article just recently where they're consulting with Dr. Robert Marbot.
Well, that the caller brings up a very good issue. Is that the Mormon Church in Utah, okay, was the big driver of solving the homeless problem, okay, and they made great strides with it because they put their money where their mouth is, and they actually.
Well, if your idea of ending homeless, helping the homeless, is just getting them out of town, so you don't have to see them anymore, that's not why Volusia Safe Harbor should even be built. Yeah. Right. No, we don't want them to. That's not the point of Volusia Safe Harbor. It's not to put them out of a shelter where they can live and stay. We're not going to put anyone on a reservation. That's not the point. The point is to help people get back on their feet.
That's an interesting metaphor, isn't it? I told the city commission that the parade of homeless people up Ridgewood was like the Trail of Tears. So, so every day. Okay, what's your name, sir? What's your first name? Kevin. Thank you for your call, and okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
God
very
bless.
much.
Thank
God
you.
bless. All right, we got another caller. Get in there. Okay, we'll see. No, okay, somebody hung up. All right, well let's summarize. In our last 5 minutes, if you can still probably sneak a call in there if you tried and didn't get through. Brad wants to go gung ho on Volusia Safe Harbor. I don't. I don't begrudge him that that opinion. I just feel from my time on the street that if they wanted to do something to help the homeless, then they would help the homeless. This pipe dream, and even Troy Ray said it. He gave a speech. Okay. 4 minutes.
Why do you call it a pipe dream? What's a pipe dream?
A pipe dream is that, I don't
get
know
it.
what the exact, is that they have this dream that if they put the money into the shelter out west of 95, they're going to sweep everybody off of Beach Street and out of the park.
That's not Troy Ray's intention.
All right, hold on. Let me finish. Okay, Troy Ray said at the New Church Family, he said that the sight line will not change.
It won't.
Immediately.
And it
Okay.
shouldn't.
Well, then what? I guess we go to the commissioners and say, well, if your objective is to satisfy the downtown merchants, okay, or the people that are complaining about the homeless, then you're going to get rid of the homeless with this initiative. That's just not going to work.
It's not my objective. My objective is to help homeless individuals get back on their feet.
All right, mine too.
That's what Volusia Safe Harbor is all about.
We're down to 3 minutes. Brad, you want to take us out? You got some final comments?
Well, not really. But I support, what you're trying to do with the shelter. Can't wait. And, if we can get a shelter and by Christmas, in any form, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
But I really think that the fastest way we're going to get a shelter is going to be Volusia Safe Harbor. And I think if this initiative fails, if the Volusia Safe Harbor initiative fails, it will fail because not because they're looking for another plan to help the homeless. It's because those who oppose Volusia Safe Harbor don't want to do anything to help single homeless men. And that's why, it will fail. And if it fails, we could be looking at another 10 years before we even get any kind of momentum for a shelter again. So I think it's very important that if you want to help the homeless and you want to see them get into a shelter, that everybody support Volusia Safe Harbor. I mean, just really support it to,
Let's
as much as
be
you can.
clear. Brad Carter supports Volusia Safe Harbor, and I do too.
100%.
Okay, I just want a prequel of emergency shelter, temporary shelter of 100 beds by Christmas, and then I want 100 units of affordable housing at the end of it. All right, so Again, you're listening to Voices from Home, a voice for the voiceless, with Brad Carter and Michael Pastore, also known as Pastor Mike. And Pastor Mike is handing out water bottles. I feed on Thursdays. My website is...
I really enjoyed going to that feeding the other day, by the way.
Good. Okay. Well, we'd love to see you out there. We're down to DaytonaHomeless.com and homeofDaytonaBeach.org. And we are clear.
God bless.